Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Hello, good morning. This is David Parra, and the show is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. We have a very good, historic, awesome program today, and the title is Lulac, One for All and All for One. We're still waiting for a couple more, actually 3 more guests. Hopefully they are arriving soon. But Lydia Guzman is already here. Thank you, Lydia. You have been in the community for so long, and we appreciate everything that you do. We were talking off the air that you basically have been a member of Lulac for what, since the 80s or so?
Since the 80s, since sometime in the mid-80s. And I'll tell you something. It was through my involvement with Lulac that I became the advocate in the community that I am now. Mm-hmm. It was Lulac who taught me everything I know about social justice, about civil rights, mm-hmm. about community organizing, and about having to participate and have a constructive and a civil dialogue with folks that sometimes we don't agree with.
Right.
But these are some of the things, they're very tempered things that you want in someone who's going to be an advocate for you. And a lot of this are the things that I learned in my involvement with Lulac and seeing some of the leadership as Lulac, they change leadership with each and every convention. And so we admire and respect each one of the folks that takes their leadership roles, and I've played several leadership roles in Lulac as well throughout these years. But Lulac is I think a great tool that young folks that want to get involved can enroll in and start maybe as an observer, and then from there, whatever their passion is,
right,
they take it and they can participate.
How old were you when you got involved with Lulac? Because just from doing the math, you must have been a teenager, perhaps?
I was a teenager.
Wow.
I was a teenager. And in California, we were faced with a couple of challenges. Mm-hmm. We were faced with a community. This was a growing Latino community in Pomona, California. Mm-hmm. And we had several organizers there who we were doing things like voter registration. And that's how I started. We were engaged with doing voter registration. We wanted to make sure that we had candidates to run for office as well as to elect.
Right.
Now, Lulac has always been involved and has always supported voter registration, get out the vote effort, as well as all the census effort, because we believe that the key to empowering our community is participating in civic engagement.
And Lydia, Lulac is in town, so to speak. I mean, the Arizona Lulacers, as sometimes they call themselves,
correct,
are here in Arizona, but more than the local folks are going to be here, arriving perhaps as early as maybe Monday or Tuesday, because Lydia, for 89 years, come on, 89 years, Lulac has been celebrating a national convention. That's a lot of years. That's
a lot of years. And I'll tell you, we have a lot to celebrate. Though I know that in these times we're faced with many challenges, but there's plenty to celebrate. Lulac, we're having our national convention here in Phoenix. Our national convention, what we do is we have a gathering of leaders from Lulac from across the country, as well as other folks who have in the past worked with Lulac, partnered with Lulac. So we not only have community allies, but we also have lots of business allies, because let's face it, there are lots of entities that have partnered with Lulac to help bring Lulac many services or many, or just, lots of outreach. And so Lulac, we celebrate our partnerships, not only with within our leadership, because many folks in our LULAC leaders belong to some of these entities. And so this is how we're able to stretch and have our tentacles in a lot of these places so we can help each other.
Right. And we are going to be talking about the history of LULAC. And by the way, for those folks that might not know what LULAC stands for, the acronym is League of United Latin American Citizens. Again, League of United Latin American Citizens. And their motto, MOTTO, is all for one. No, one for all and all for one.
Así es.
And so just for those folks that might be, hearing about LULAC for the first time, it's been around since 1929. And again, the National Convention has been celebrated for 89 years. I was reading this morning, and by the way, if you're listening by radio or watching us through Facebook Live at AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection, the website is very simple to remember, lulac.org. Lulac.org. I really would like to invite anybody listening to go to the website, lulac.org, and just go to About, and then you'll have several options there, and you'll find history. It is an unbelievable history. But before we get to the history of LULAC, and again, we're still waiting for 3 other guests, tell us a little bit more, Lydia, about this conference. Why is it important that the community here in Phoenix get involved?
Well, the conference, we're going to be discussing several things. LULAC, and if you go to the website, you'll see that we're involved in many, many issues, everything from education to housing to civil rights. We do a lot of issues, everything from immigration to, there's civil rights issues that we have to address, from education to even housing.
Right.
And so, but, as we're involved in these issues, we also want to educate our communities so that they can be involved and participate. So our conference is going to address several things. We have several workshops on how to empower Latino communities who in the past have been disenfranchised. There's histories, even here in Phoenix, there's histories of certain areas where banks didn't want to lend to. There's areas where the businesses just didn't want to put businesses in there. We had things called food islands.
Right.
So all of those issues are part of why it is that LULAC is involved not only in Phoenix, but also in other communities across the country. The conference, we will address a lot of those issues, and we will also give the participants and the audience tools that they need so that they can become better advocates,
right,
so that they can become engaged. Because LULAC is one organization, and maybe, we have members, and though we invite everybody to become a member, but we can't do it alone. And that's why we need allies.
Right. And I understand that this conference, it's free of charge. It starts on Wednesday, I believe.
Yes.
And by the way, just in case somebody will listen to this show in a year or two, this is July 14th, 2018. And the conference goes from what day to what day? I think it's Wednesday through Friday.
So the conference is from Wednesday the 17th until Friday the 20th. And on this conference, we will be having workshops on that. We'll be having workshops on the census. The census is something that's very, very important. We want to make sure that not only members, but our allies and the rest of the community knows about the importance of the census and what are some of the issues that we're currently faced.
Right.
I know that we have several issues that have come up that we want to discuss during those conversations. And so on the census workshops, we're going to have several workshops. There's also workshops on, know your rights and how to give tools to those participants so that they can go back and bring this information into their communities so that they can become advocates.
Yes. And Lydia, even AARP is going to be offering a panel discussion on the challenges that Social Security and Medicare face and the possible solutions. So a panel of AARP staff and volunteers along with our colleagues from our national office, are going to be there. It's going to be on Thursday the 19th at 2 p.m. Now, I want to make it clear, if you can confirm this information. The conference is free, and there are great activities around meals. For those, people need to buy those tickets to go to those activities around meals, breakfast, lunches, and dinners, which, by the way, they are amazing, unbelievable, inspiring. Obviously, that does cost have a cost.
Right. Historically, we've had some great dinners, and we've had some great luncheons, but we've invited some key folks to be keynote speakers.
Right.
That's why they call them key.
Who do we have this year that it's going to be big?
One that I can certainly mention and confirm is we have former Vice President Joe Biden.
Joe Biden is going to be
here. Joe Biden will be here, and Joe Biden, he, as well as the administration that he served in with the Obama administration, they recognize the importance of the Latino community involved in all aspects of government. And I believe he might be touching on those areas. And Joe Biden has always been a friend to the Latino community.
Right.
But I hope that he will deliver a message of unity and peace. And I think that this is something that, we all, want to hear. But another person who I am hearing, though, I think that this is yet to be confirmed, but I'm hearing that we're also going to have CNN correspondent or CNN contributors, Ana Navarro.
Right.
And so Ana Navarro is she's been talking about a variety of issues that affect our community.
She happens to be a Republican, I believe.
She is a Latina. Yes. She is a Republican.
Right.
And so, and that's also one important thing that I wanted to point out. Lulac is a nonpartisan organization.
Right.
Because some organizations, they call themselves bipartisan or whatever. We're not even bipartisan. We're nonpartisan.
Okay.
We make sure that if there's members, we don't care what party they are. If they are independent, that's fine too.
Right. Perfect. We are going to go on our first break. You are listening to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. The subject today is Lulac, the League of United Latin American Citizens, one for all and all for one. Stay with us. We're going to begin to address the history of Lulac in just a bit. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection, and today we have a very, very amazing program, informative, exciting, and we are talking about Lulac. Lulac was founded in 1929. This morning, I don't know, for some reason I woke up around 2 a.m. and I just couldn't go to sleep. So I said, might as well just go to my computer and begin to get ready for the show. So I went to lulac.org and I studied I read about the history. It's just unbelievable. And one of the realizations I had this morning is that, Lulac is the oldest Latino advocacy organization in the country. It has survived all of them and is still moving strong. So let me just say a little something about the history, because it's unbelievable. 1776, that's the date with the U.S. independence, right? The Declaration of Independence. In 1845, we have the annexation of Texas, right? So 1776, the independence. 1845, the annexation of Texas. Between 1846 and 1848, we have the Mexican-American War. And obviously, Texas was the epicenter. In 1948, we have the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. that it called for Mexico to cede 55% of its territory, which includes Arizona, California, New Mexico, Texas, and parts of Colorado, Nevada, and Utah. And that cost Mexico $15 million to war restitutions kind of thing. The interesting thing is that the Lulac was founded in 1929. So what I would like to highlight, and let me go back to a paragraph that I have here in my computer because I think it's very, very important. Let me read to you the reasons that led to the formation of Lulac. When the United States annexed a third of Mexico's territory following that Mexican War, nearly 77,000 Mexicans became U.S. citizens. Now, those are the ones that say that they did not cross the border, but the border crossed them. So think about it. These are 77,000 Mexicans who, from one day to the next, they are now U.S. citizens. For generations, these citizens were to be plagued by prejudice that would result in acts of discrimination and segregation. This led to denial of many civil rights. The sign, "No Mexicans Allowed," was found everywhere. In Texas, prejudice and acts of discrimination had reached such extreme proportions that Mexican Americans began organizing to defend themselves. There were three main organizations at that time that were organizing and advocating. One was the Order of the Sons of America, with councils in Somerset, Pearsall, Corpus Christi, and San Antonio. The second group was the Knights of America in San Antonio. And the third was the League of Latin American Citizens, with councils in Harlingen, Brownsville, Laredo, Peñitas, La Grulla, McAllen, and Gulf. This basically was the beginning. So these three groups got together, and to me that was an amazing thing, because to gather three groups who are very successful and basically give up their own thing to form an organization, it's not an easy thing. Let me read the last paragraph. This was a delicate task because each organization had a proud history, its own constitution, its own structure, and a strong leader. The Knights of America of San Antonio, the oldest of the three, had done much for its community under the leadership of M.C. Gonzalez. The same held true for the Sons of America of Corpus Christi, the second oldest, and under the leadership of Ben Garza. Nevertheless, the League of Latin American Citizens of the Texas Valley, although the youngest of the three, had been effective under the leadership of Alonso S. Perales and was growing at a much faster pace than the other two combined. So basically, it is very amazing to see, to understand Lulac, one has to understand the background. Because why Lulac? Why these three groups? What was the background? So I'll just leave it up for the three of you to chime in and just, bring your thoughts. To me, that this was mind-boggling, because sometimes you hear Lulac, and you think of the present. Mm-hmm. But Lulac is the product of these three organizations, right? Civil rights organizations, mm-hmm. under this not so good environment after these 77,000 Mexicans became U.S. citizens and their rights were not being honored.
Right. And when you mentioned that the Mexican American community were suffering lots of civil rights violations, including segregations, it was very prevalent in the education system. And as more members as more people became involved with the organization, Lulac had to take on a different type of advocacy role. In California, just like in a lot of the southwestern states, the schools were segregating the Latino students. They were telling them, they couldn't speak Spanish in school. They were punishing them for speaking Spanish. But in 1945, so this was just, not that long after Lulac was founded, Lulac sued the education system. Lulac sued the education system to integrate the Orange County school systems, and this is in Southern California.
Right.
The segregation.
Is that the Mendes versus Westminster, or that came later?
No, that came later.
Okay.
This one in Orange County, the Latino community, they were suffering segregation very much like they did in with the African American community in the South. And then some of the schools that were integrating students, they were separating them. Here, I've heard stories where here in Phoenix, they were separating them, and they made the students either sit on the floor because there weren't enough desks, or they were having the students just on against the wall, and they weren't in the center, and they were the ones that were often ignored. Or if they didn't have enough school material, they would not give out school material to those kids, and so they suffered not only inadequate education because they didn't have the same access, but they also, many of them were not allowed in the schools. And so Lulac became an integral part of a lawsuit. We won. And so this was the beginning of Lulac saying, if we can't be heard, and if we can't be integrated, not only, in places like this, we're going to have to take you to court.
Right.
And so, Lulac has often been a plaintiff to sue to ensure that our rights are protected.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we can always count on with Lulac. Lulac is definitely, we don't want to say that Lulac is in the business of suing governments.
Right.
But we have
Sometimes
participated.
it looks like it, but it's not.
But we have in order to ensure that we are protected equally, and that is our constitutional right under the Equal Protection Clause, that we are protected just as equal.
And I work for AARP, and I blame ourselves a lot of times for not telling the story about AARP, and I'm going to have to blame Lulac as well. Lulac doesn't tell the story. It is an unbelievable story. Before I go on, you just joined our conversation. What is your impression about the beginnings of Lulac?
Well, we hear it all the time. We're always among leaders like Lidia Guzman, and we hear it all the time. And every time we hear it, it's like you said, it's unbelievable. It's amazing. We feel ourselves that we are part of something big, just because it has made a change in a lot of community leaders to make the change with the community. So within all those rights, like they said, that need to be protected, I feel like Lulac is standing next to us. So it's a voice for all of us.
Yeah, and it's the oldest. Your thoughts? Yeah. And if you can pull the mic towards you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, to me, it's also one of the biggest things that I see, the way how they start from the beginning. So, and there's no some organization that just started. It's some organization that has like huge history behind. So, and it's very, very interesting to see that, because we can see that it's something very solid. Right. And that gives more support, now when you see that it's an organization that is very solid. So you feel that they have experience, because they've been here for a long time also. So yeah, we can feel that. But yeah, the support. It's a beautiful organization.
You want to add more?
Yeah, I think I just want to say that every time I talk to somebody about Lulac, not only that they know something about Lulac, but like I say, they hear. Obviously, leaders like Lidia Guzman and a lot of, among others, tell people. They tell people on an everyday basis. And I heard Lidia say this, and I feel like all that information is being sent to the right people, but we just need more of Lidia in the community.
One of the realizations, and I know this phrase is reserved for veterans. Thank you for your service is reserved for them, and we acknowledge that. But I just had a sense that, seeing you and seeing Ana Valenzuela and Richard and Frank Barrios and Terry Cruz, who's now left us already, And they don't have to do this. Maria Alvarado.
volunteers.
They don't have to do this. They can just go to bed and watch TV, listen to music, and stay home. Wouldn't you like that? You know, but and I heard
passion.
almost.
It's
What is almost the first name of the actor? What's, James.
Edward James
Olmos,
Olmos.
There's a little video of him that says, "Look, you have to make sure your family has a home, your family has clothes, your family has food. But once you take care of your family, then you have to take care of your neighbor, and then your neighborhood, and then your city, and then your county, and then your state, and then the country, and then the world, and then the planet." So unbelievable. This is just unbelievable to see so many people. I mean, practically all the councils are composed of volunteers, and they have to pay to become members. I brought my membership card, my Lulac membership card. You have to pay to be a member, so you're going to have to want to be, right?
That's correct. So Lulac is a membership organization,
right.
And and those that do become members, we do ensure that they have a membership card.
Right.
And there's lots of benefits of being a Lulac member. I mean, besides el orgullo, man, you have that pride that say, I'm a member of Lulac and I'm a member of an organization that helps protect and advocate for civil rights and for human rights también. But also, I think that, you belong to an organization that is family.
Right. Definitivamente.
That money obviously goes to the family.
Right.
It goes to the people that is needed.
Right. We're going to have to go on our second break. Stay with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. We're addressing today Lulac, one for all and all for one. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. This is getting even better. We already have two more. So now we have a full house. Actually, we're still waiting for David Hernandez. I don't know if he's going to make it. These people are busy. I'm not kidding you. You came from Tucson. Richard Estrada is here. Welcome, Richard. You are the state director of Lulac here in Arizona.
My name is Richard Estrada. I'm the Arizona Lulac State Director. I am also a national board member. I have been in Lulac for 28 years.
28?
Yes, 28
Wow.
years. I started when I was 14
Okay, makes
doing
sense.
the first youth leadership conference in Tucson, and it's actually 29 years strong that it's been going on at Pima Community College. It's
and we're going to get to how it started in Arizona. I think it's going to be very interesting. Welcome, and then let me just also welcome Ana Valenzuela Estrada. Welcome, Ana. Thank you for joining.
Good morning to everyone. Good morning, David. Thank you very much, and to my colleagues present. Thank you for being present here. I'm just elated, they were here, that you invited us to your, fabulous and famous program.
Thank you.
That, brings forth, information to our general community and to our general community and to families, and all people in general. They want to know what is happening in the beautiful city of Phoenix, Arizona.
Ana, 89 years consecutively, Lulac has held a national convention. This is unbelievable.
Yes, sir, that is correct. The first was held in the Texas area, and as you well know, probably you all spoke about our national, Lulac started in Corpus Christi.
Christi.
Exactly. So, so they all got together and they had, their first president, which was Ben Garza. And they're on, up to 89 years now,
And it came to Phoenix.
Yes,
it
in
came
Phoenix,
home.
Arizona. Yes, Mr. Estrada, he went and bid it in the youth area.
You did it in Utah. I was there when you bid it to have it here.
Yes, I did the bid with, there were 4 other cities that were trying to receive it.
Right.
And we received the bid
unanimously
by the contingency. in the room from Lulac, which was great. They felt the need and they saw the need that we needed to come back to Arizona, and we needed to reinvigorate our Lulacers and reinvigorate our Phoenicians and our Arizonans, because we know that there is a lot of work that we have to do in our state. We are such a young state.
Right.
Arizona, a lot of people forget, but we are one of the last states to unionize in the great 50 states and in the mainland. And so in that, we have a lot of work that we have to do. And so I feel like we're the small child of a big family. So there was a national, I want to say it was in 1999, I believe.
Yes, and I think LULAC also had a national convention here in
Yes.
2002.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We did have,
So
and as a
basically
matter of fact,
the third?
no, I think it's the second one that
national,
is huge,
correct.
national.
Tell us a little bit about the conference. I think people need to understand or hear that this is a free conference other than the events around meals, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Parra. LULAC, offers to our community at large, free workshops, free exposition, free career fair that they have. We have the LULAC and collegiate symposiums that are free to the families
Right.
and to the youth and to the young adults.
Women's conference?
Women's conference is it's a little bit different because the convention is one as a whole, and this year they tagged the women's conference, and the women's conference starts on Wednesday too, as well as the national convention with our ribbon cutting at 10:00 in the morning. And they do have workshops.
Okay.
The meals are the ones that
That have a cost.
Yes, sir.
But they are wonderful.
Yes, they are.
Oh, yes, yes. So some of these...
Not the meal necessarily, the program.
The program, correct.
Okay.
But really, it's the program, and it's the program of the entity that's in the program. And those are the people
Yeah.
who are attending.
Right.
And so those are our local Phoenicians, and then those are our national Lulacers, and then
Right.
our national entities who are incorporated with Lulac.
Richard, and
Yes,
I
sir.
want to remind everyone to speak close to the mic, a couple of inches from the mic. There's going to be something about Roberto Clemente and a soccer clinic, or is a baseball clinic?
Baseball
That's a
clinic.
baseball
A
clinic,
baseball
correct.
clinic
So we
with
have...
Luis Roberto, is it?
Yes.
Luis Roberto?
It's
It's
Roberto.
the son of
Junior.
Roberto.
Yes, he's the
Roberto
son.
Jr.
He's the
Right.
son. And
Can you
he-
give us just more details on that?
Okay, so he actually played professional baseball also, but his father was one of the pioneers for Latino baseball players in the game and the sport itself. So where the African Americans have Robinson, we have Clemente for
Right,
Latinos.
right.
He was one of the first Latinos to be a very prominent player at the time. So he was one of the highest paid players at the time, regardless of the color of his skin or
Right.
his culture. And he was aware of the responsibility that he had. And so he was very outspoken about certain issues that were important to him and were important to our community. And he was one of the first people to do that because of the fact that he had that outlet, that he had the opportunity because he was a famous person, because he was a great talent in sports.
Right.
And sport, we all know, supersedes all races and creeds and religions. Sports, one thing that we know that everybody can agree on.
Anna, you have held several positions in Lulac. I think you've been with Lulac for a long time. Can you share some of the positions that you've held at Lulac?
Thank you, Mr. Parra. Yes, initially, when Belen Robles, invited me to participate in LULAC, she asked me to be the Secretary of Education. And during that time, we, the emphasis of the testing, and the emphasis of having the youth go through all these programs, in a way, all the different entities in the nation was invited in with the Secretary of State. At that time, we see now, the ramifications of the testing, and from there I leave it there. Then from there I became the National Vice President for Women.
Okay.
And under then, I was under President Dovalina, working with him. And in that entity, I was in a lot of the committees, military committee, women's committee, issues, dealing with civil rights. And later then, I became the state director of Arizona.
Right. I remember that.
Yes. And then after that, after being the state director of Arizona, I became the National Vice President for Youth, which was in office for 5 years.
And you're still holding that position
I'm
currently?
holding the immediate past,
Okay.
National Vice President Yes.
Right. We have 5 minutes still with this third segment. Let's come to Arizona. I don't know if maybe, Lydia, you want to start us off. How did Lulac start in Arizona, or whoever?
Lulac started here in Arizona 69 years ago because we just had our 69th convention.
So basically 20 years after it started. So that would be the 49.
Correct.
49.
And some of the members was the late, Terry Cruz, our wonderful, we call her the mother of Lulac here in Arizona.
Okay.
And then, Steve Sosaya. And then
and his wife,
Mrs. Sosaya.
Ray Gano.
Yeah, Ray Gano. Ray Gano passed away. Ray Gano was a national vice president for the Far West. Mrs. Sosaya was national vice president for women. So we had we were represented here tremendously. Our Frank Carrillo also being our past national vice president for the Far West. Those were the key. Then also Mr.
and I think our biggest politician and Lulacer is Raul Castro, who was governor of Arizona,
right?
Only Mexican American governor, and he was a Lulacer. He was Lulacer, who was a state director. He was Lulacer. He was a state director. So I tell this to people all the time. Sometimes, since I'm state director,
I did not know that.
I tell people that I am on course to try and follow in greatness, and I have shoes to fill that are great because of the fact that I am in a position where one of the greatest Mexican Americans who lived in my time, a gentleman who I knew, really took control of our people and took control of his life. I mean, he literally became the governor, the biggest authority that we have in this state, next to the president of the United States. So I think that's a really big accomplishment for him. Right. And then the work that he's done resonated really soundly, I believe, with the rest of us Lulacers and in the community.
So we have Lulac has councils where currently?
Yes, we have councils in Nogales, San Luis, Somerton, Yuma. Then we have in Flagstaff. Then we have here in metropolitan city of Phoenix.
Levine,
Avondale. Levine, Avondale, Mesa, Tempe. Then we have in Tucson,
East Valley.
In the East Valley too.
Let's make it clear: it's all volunteers, correct?
Correct.
And they have to pay.
Okay, so yes. So I'll tell you about a really quick info bit about Lulac. So NAACP helped to form Lulac, and NAACP formed 4 months prior to us. And they help us to go and form in Canada because we could not form in the United States because they would not allow us at the time. So when that happened, we really started advocating for Latinos. And the reason why we were advocating is because we were not allowed to own homes. That was the most important thing. And so we were able to start that, and we've spun off many other organizations that are still alive and doing well today. And so we are at 89 years.
Are you talking about at the state level or nationally?
Nationally. So Lulac has many organizations that we have helped to implement and to start up. I can say ACLU, Maldiv, Chicanos por la Causa was started by.
Now, the Lulac was instrumental in the formation of the American GI Forum.
Correct.
And also
Maldiv.
Correct.
Yeah, they're like
do you
children.
Know what do you remember what does that stand for, Lydia? Maldiv.
Sure. Maldiv is the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and Maldiv is it's like the Latino version of the ACLU. Basically, what they are is they are an entity that sues. They're actually in the business of suing government. And so Maldiv, whenever they sue, usually their plaintiffs are organizations like Lulac. Whenever there is something like a disparity that's taking place or some sort of a social injustice taking place with the Latino community, Maldiv will intervene.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a difficult question in the last segment, so be ready. It's going to be a curveball.
Nice.
Stay with us. We're going to have to go on our last break. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Wow, it's been a fun show, very informative. And let me get right down to the subject because I think it's a curveball. And I once asked Anna, and I did a little bit of research, but there is something in the history of Lulac that at some point Lulacers were called vendidos. That means that they basically sold themselves. And, because, if you consider you have people, organizations like Chicanos, Por la Causa, then others use La Raza. And here you come with citizens, Latin American citizens. So it seems like there was a different approach. And at some point you were called vendidos. So Lydia, you want to?
Sure. Well, first of all,
that?
the Lulac accepts everybody. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be just Latin American. And so this is an inclusive organization. And so you don't have to be American as well. There's folks that don't have American citizenship status that are members of LULAC. But another thing that I want to mention regarding that term, this is a term that we've heard, and it hurts us to hear, especially from a lot of our allied organizations, because LULAC has always believed that in order to be a part of the conversation, we have to be at the table. We have to engage those that sometimes we're fighting with. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, we have to, extend across the aisle, whether it's, whatever entity it is. And a lot of times these are government entities that are doing these things to us, mm-hmm. that we have to have these conversations. So having an open dialogue and talking about some of the issues that affect our community with some of the leaderships in the organizations that are actually hurting us sometimes is how we're able to not only address these issues so that we can have them perhaps change their internal policies. We've actually seen memos come out. Let me give you an example. During SB 1070, we were so upset with immigration and that. So what we did is we actually had a small conversation with some of the leadership here in Phoenix, the special agent in charge of DHS, and we were talking about them. They were really upset also with SB 1070 because this was a state law trying to tell the federal government how it is that they were going to mm-hmm. do this immigration enforcement. And basically what we learned from that and the takeaway that we had from that was that they were just as upset about it as we were, because now they were trying to ask to do a mandate that, they didn't have the resources for and they didn't know. And they actually shared with us, we're not going to spend our time spinning our wheels for people that maybe just have like an issue of hate against either their ex-wife or their neighbor or their whatever. Right. So the takeaway of having these conversations gives us a better understanding, and then they also hear from us.
Right. And it's interesting because I addressed the beginning of LULAC, where you have 77,000 Mexicans who were crossed by the border, became U.S. citizens, and there were people in those thousands of Mexicans who became Mexican Americans from one day to the next. There were people who wanted to still take over Mexico. Which was pretty obvious. I mean, if you go through this experience, you're going to get mad. And then there was others who have a different approach. So for LULAC to take this approach, to me, it was a big thing. Yes. I also read that there were organizations that took the opposing kind of negative approach, and they did not last but 2 years.
Correct.
So LULAC had to do some thinking, I suppose, to come up with that idea.
There was some foresight there by our forefathers mm-hmm. that they realized that in order for them to be a viable part of the community, they had to really show the community what it was to be viable. Mm. And so that meant to be professional. That meant to work across the table. That meant to be a different type of organization than what most people had seen. And if you're looking at where we're at right now at 89 years, there has been a good ideal, a good moral, and a good value of LULAC. And that's really what keeps LULAC where we're
National
at.
Council of La Raza now is Unidos US. I'm
Correct.
sure they kind of have to go. They had to go through some thinking themselves, and obviously some people are going to interpret these things differently, which is very natural. But I assume that there was something to it with LULAC.
Well,
Correct.
David, remember that the organization, started, when our forefathers came back from World War II,
Right.
where they learned, delegation, where they learned,
Organizing.
discipline, organization. They learned that, to be, a whole family. So they had all those values, like Mr. Estrada was speaking, like Lydia was talking, and they had goals, and they had a vision, and they had objectives, and they knew that. And they knew people all over the United States and Puerto Rico. So they knew, that they could all work together and make everybody inclusive. Yes, I am Mexican American, but yes, I am an American.
Right.
And that's what that's what it is.
Well,
Yeah.
and to give you another little tidbit really quick. So, I know people in the past, and there was that term that they call us bandidos, but, we're at right now where I'll give you just a quick example. It was November 7th, 2017, and LULAC, National and LULAC Arizona filed a federal lawsuit against Arizona's dual voter registration system that suppresses the Latino vote.
Right.
And we won that against the federal system last month. So LULAC, we are constantly fighting for our people. We haven't stopped. Our work is
totally discredit that concept.
correct. Like and this is what we did with this lawsuit that we did win, that we won for our people and all people, all Americans, not just LULACers, all Americans.
Yeah.
That
And,
we did. This is the work that we do consistently, and that's what we do nationally, and it's what we do locally.
Right. And I think if anybody knows a little bit about LULAC, they know that you are heavily involved with immigration. So how can
Yes.
you, right? Conference. I mean, we have just a few more minutes. This is a big event coming up this week.
Yes, David.
Take it away. Invite people. What should
Okay,
they know?
thank you very much, David. We cordially invite, the general public to attend the 89th LULAC National Convention at the Phoenix Convention Center.
I'm going to be there the whole week,
Oh, wonderful. Yes.
including Saturday, which is the business meeting, because I am a
Member.
Yay.
I
You
pay
pay
my
your
dues.
dues.
Yes.
Yeah, so, we want to invite you all. We have a lot of, things, activities, workshops, the expo. We have, in the expo, we have an array of artists and authors and then actors like mariachis and folklorico and and the biggest thing is the author of Coco will be there, talking to the people, doing, narratives, reading from her book, signing books. Then we also have, Roman Reyes. And Roman Reyes, he was the one that did all the masks for the Lord of the Rings. And he's a local
Wow.
artist. Then, Tania Alvarez. And Tania Alvarez has won a lot of, and she's a Chicana, right, Lydia? She's a Chicana. And then David Tineo, that is very well all over the United States and Europe. Yeah, a lot of speakers, a lot of really good workshops, and Lydia Guzman, Lydia Guzman is going to be part of our
AARP is going to be offering a
AARP
panel
is gonna
on
be a
Social
panel.
Security and Medicare,
Exactly.
the challenges it faces and the solutions to those challenges.
Yeah.
That's going to take place on June
Yeah.
the 19th at 2 o'clock.
David Adame will be one of our workshop, participants.
What is he
Richard
gonna talk
Estrada,
about?
Senator Martin Quesada.
Yeah.
And then, our
Well, you're
our
going to
main
have
person
all the leaders from Arizona,
Yes.
obviously, as
Yeah.
I'm sure you work on
Right.
that, Richard,
Daniel
right?
Hernandez,
Daniel
now we
Hernandez,
have, President Biden, Vice President Biden, he will be here.
Yes, and also
our-
the astronaut, the famous astronaut that is the
He's of Mexican descent,
he is of
isn't he?
Mexican descent.
Right.
He came from, his family were farm workers. So.
Amazing.
But so the workshops are going to vary, and this is a great opportunity for someone to come, learn, take the tools with them so that they can be advocates in the community. And that's, I think, the mission of LULAC and the purpose of these workshops. You come and you not only meet other folks and other leaders from across the country, you get to network and exchange information, but you get to exchange ideas and learn.
So if someone
Also,
who works if someone who works in the downtown area, they can look at the agenda.
Correct.
Not AARP. LULAC.org. They have the agenda there. they can select a session that they might want to attend, and by all means go. It's free.
Then
Correct.
also, you know,
And
we
they're
have
all
Ana
free,
Navarro,
correct.
you know, a political community.
Is she confirmed?
policy leader. She's confirmed, and she will be here. One of the things also that we do is the Otley Award. And this year, you know, the Otley Award will be presented to Sheriff of Santa Cruz County.
Wow.
Sheriff Tony Estrada, you know, and they came, you know, from
So I'm going to give a plug for Tony Estrada. Tony Estrada is my uncle. I'm Richard Estrada, Tony Estrada's nephew, and we are so proud of my uncle. The work that he has done in the community has resonated
What he has
deeply.
done?
Well, the work that he has done, oh my goodness.
He's
So,
been the-
so Santa Cruz County has 91% high school graduation rate for public schools. That is the highest out of any county in the United States for public school. Santa Cruz County has one murder with a handgun in 8 years. Wow. And that was an officer on duty 4 months ago. Santa Cruz County has 0% homelessness. Santa Cruz County has had less than 10 cases of officer brutality or officer incidents in the past 10 years. Santa Cruz County has back-to-back baseball state champions for
But
4A.
what is he?
Well, my uncle is Tony Estrada, and he's the sheriff of the community.
He's the sheriff.
And Tony Estrada, he is a local Nogales member of the community that a member of the community where there are only so many families in Nogales. And the original families, the Estradas are one of the originals there. My grandfather, Tony's father, was a police officer also. So our family's had public service and has been in public safety for quite a while. I worked for the school district in Tucson for quite a while. My sister does right now. She worked for the Maricopa County attorney for quite a while also. So we know about public service. We have an investment in the community. We love our community. And the work that my uncle has done, it's evident with the community about how I just told you how well they're doing in Santa Cruz County. But we're very proud of him that he will be receiving the Otley Award.
I would like them to say at least any little something, because you didn't speak in the last two segments.
The convention's going to happen from July 17th to the 21st. Like I said, it's full of workshops. It's full of information. It's for all the community, and it's free.
Right.
So it's at the convention center. So
Free.
All right.
Also, we have the event Rancho Corona. That's
the Arizona night.
Arizona night. It's going to be 6 to 9.
We're going to be having, obviously, mariachi there. Coco, the
And who's invited to that?
Everybody.
The community at large is invited to attend this. This,
When is this?
This is on Wednesday, the 18th, from 6 to 9.
6
then
to
the
9.
grand opening, is ribbon cutting is at 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday.
Perfect. Well,
17th to the 21st. We'll
congratulations to Lulac. I'm just
thank you,
amazed.
David.
I am
Thank you,
just
David.
amazed.
Thank you, David. Padre.
Yeah, it is amazing, the history. And again, I want to recommend anybody to go to lulac.org. Please go and just spend a little time learning about the history of Lulac. Is unbelievable. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining. This is the end of our program. Join us next week. Have a great week. This was AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection.